This is a Gear Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Mr. Perez, and you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, brought to you exclusively on Gear Network. Listen in.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode number 56.
56.
Of the Better Live Than Dead podcast. We are doing something interesting this week. It's because at press time right now, it's a Wednesday afternoon. But I think, Lewis, and first off, before we get started, obviously me, Ryan Wolf, as usual, Wolf BLTD on Twitter, the man on the phone, Lewis, Mr. Perez, at MRLG Perez in the tweets.
Yes.
We're doing something different here this week because it seems to be the last week where I am personally crushed with stuff. I know tomorrow I'm supposed to be going to see my sister. Friday I have the day off in preparation for this wedding that's going on. Then Saturday there's a wedding. My sister's getting married. And then Sunday will probably be used as a day of recovery. So at this point, you know, I tried to figure something out. I didn't want to not have a podcast because we've been going strong for so long that, you know, taking a week off might really hinder what we have going on here. Right. So I figured, you know, if we don't do like a normal podcast this week, you know, where we have all the commercials and all the bumps and stuff, we can just kind of have like an old school conversation that we recorded on my computer, and then we'll just put it up on GearNetwork.com. I mean, yeah, we'll still talk about some sports, we'll talk about some light stuff, but
works for me, bro.
I'm glad that you're ready to be here. I know I'm getting over an illness. I've been dealing with some sinus issues, and I know, Lewis, this morning you were sick as well. So it's just we're doing pretty good, staying together.
Yes, that's a true story.
Now, like I said, I don't want to go strict podcast on you. We're just gonna. I have a list of news here, and I just want to go through some of it. We'll talk about some things like how big of a loss. Jumping into, I guess we'll call it the news you need to know, but it's not going to be as structured as before. Arian Foster had surgery last week for sports hernia. Now he hasn't been completely healthy the past couple seasons, but how big of a loss is Arian Foster not being there for Houston for a couple weeks, or for maybe even a couple months?
That's a pretty big loss. He's been one of the most productive backs in the NFL for the last several seasons. So I believe that this will definitely hurt Houston. I don't know how bad it's going to hurt them, but it's definitely not something, you know, that you want to have happen to a team when you have a back like him. Looking
at what Houston did last year and what they're trying to do this year, it certainly doesn't help out the cause. I mean, it's early enough in camp where they can try to find a guy and put him in that role. But, I mean, no one's going to be Arian Foster. Maybe you can get a guy like Alfred Blue. I know last year he stepped in Foster's absence and had a couple good weeks in fantasy. But you might be able to get a guy like him to step in for a couple weeks. But at this point, you really just hope that Arian Foster gets healthy soon, and that he can help out the Texans sooner than later.
Yeah, the Texans need him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I haven't yet watched the first episode of Hard Knocks, which was, as I mentioned, as a press time, it was last night, so it would have been Tuesday night, the 11th. It was on, so I'll have to check that out. But right now, I believe that I don't even know, because I know the quarterback is between Hoyer and Mallett, and if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be Brian Hoyer. That was the early speculation, but I mean, you don't have. You have a decent defense, but I mean the offense is just kind of there.
You know, every time I hear Mallett's name, all I can think of is MC Hammer. He's like, I am Mallett, I am. I'm doing the dance over here. It's kind of funny.
That's fair enough.
But you know what? I mean, and that's why this team needs someone like.
Well, someone that they can count on.
Right, because, I mean, you're looking at Hoyer and Mallett, and quite frankly, your quarterback situation is not the best situation. So you need that dependable person coming up the middle.
Absolutely. Well, that's like with the Buffalo Bills, for instance. I mean, it's a totally different situation, but we talked about it last week with the Buffalo Bills quarterback situation. If you have a decent running back or a solid running back, you can kind of take pressure off the quarterback. So in the case of Houston, not having Arian Foster in that backfield, the defenses may be able to kind of cheat a little and put more pressure on Mallett or Hoyer and try to force them into more mistakes.
Right.
So it may be tough. They may have to alter their game plan just a tad, but certainly Arian Foster, a huge loss for the Houston Texans right now. Moving
I tell you what,
what's up?
He's a bigger loss than what the Jets have to go through right now.
Well, hey, we'll talk about that in just a second. You're getting ahead of yourself, damn it.
Well, see, I don't have a list like you do.
You don't. I'm just actually there's a lot of stuff I'm skipping over, but we'll get to that in just a second. Don't you worry. Don't you worry, Lewis. I actually have the article up on my computer with the details, so we can discuss the details. That's what we call a cliffhanger in the business.
That's right.
Transitioning over from dumb football players to more dumb football players, San Francisco 49er linebacker Aldon Smith was arrested again for charged with hit-and-run, DUI, and vandalism. The 49ers cut him, so now he is he's currently a free agent. I was going to say he's technically a free agent, but he's currently a free agent. Someone will give him a shot again because he is, at the start of his career, he was trending in the direction of being a Hall of Fame linebacker, but his problem has always been inability to stay out of trouble. And
right.
Apparently there were some rumors going around that Colin Kaepernick was dating Aldon Smith's ex-girlfriend or something like that, and Aldon Smith got pissed off about it, and he claims he wasn't drunk. But then when the 49ers ownership met with him after he was, I don't know if they met with him in jail or after he was released from jail, but he didn't take any responsibility for what had happened. So they said, look, we're done with your crap, you're out. And I mean, it is, I'm not sure if there's any franchise at any point in time that's had worse luck than San Fran has had this offseason with players retiring. I mean, Harbaugh's out, and once Harbaugh left, it was like the cork that just let all the air out. And players are retiring, talking crap about San Francisco. No one wants to be there. They hire a head coach who a lot of people don't think is qualified for the job. So they may quickly go back to being irrelevant in that NFC West, especially with Arizona being good and Seattle being great, and St. Louis potentially maybe turning the corner. I mean, that will hold our breath on, but it's looking like San Francisco could certainly fall back into being irrelevant through the stretches of the National Football League.
Oh, they absolutely are going to be irrelevant this year. They're going to be horrible. They are going to be horrible.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and
they're going to finish last in their division.
Wide receivers, they don't have. I don't think they have.
They got a good quarterback.
They've got Anquan Bolden. They've got Vernon Davis, Colin Kaepernick. They may be able to win, 7 or 8 games, but that defense is.
I think that's pushing it.
Well, that defense is parched and pieced. Well, hey, you know what? Well, think about it, because we've got a few more weeks. We're going to do a NFL season spectacular special thing coming up sometime soon. Just looking real quick through the rest of the football news. Fred Jackson, Bills running back, out a few weeks with a hamstring injury. The Bills extend Nickel Roby, one of the best nickel cornerbacks in the game. Pittsburgh's kicker Sean Sweezum tears his ACL. They signed Garrett Hartley. Big news out of Baltimore this week. Wide receiver Steve Smith, one of the best, announces that he will retire following the 2015 season. Here's a good story for you, Perez. Philadelphia Eagle fans have started a petition for the Pope to bless quarterback Sam Bradford's knees before the season starts. They know what they're getting themselves into. They know Sam Bradford's knees are really bad, and they want to somehow protect themselves, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's understandable. You have to protect yourself. I just think it's funny that they start a petition to have the Pope bless his knees. They should start a petition to have the Pope bless Philly fan and make them not such horrible fans.
That would be a good start. Or bless, have them bless the franchise so they can not make terrible decisions.
Well, there's that too, but Philly fan is like the most hated fan in the NFL.
Well, they're one of the worst fans in all of sports.
Right. So, the Pope, they should just have the Pope bless them, so maybe they'll have a season of not being such a bunch of douches.
That's fair. I'm not even I can't even add any more to that. I think you hit that hammer, you nailed that one on the head with the hammer. One more thing, Lewis, before we move on to the Jawgate, or whatever you want to call it. I've seen some funny names on the tweet bots. That was not one of the funnier ones. But reportedly, well, not reportedly, because it can't be reportedly because it came directly from the horse's mouth. Cleveland has discussed signing running back Ray Rice. Do you believe that Ray Rice deserves a second chance in the National Football League?
Yes, I do. I believe everyone deserves at least one more chance. Did what he did was, despicable? Yes. Deplorable? Absolutely. But his wife is standing behind him or beside him, probably preferably behind him, just in case he swings again. But, she is backing him. So I don't see why, if the wife is like, give him another chance, I married him, even after he knocked me out, then, give the guy another chance. And if he does it again, kick him out forever.
It definitely sounds like it was something where Cleveland knows that the running back situation is less than good. So you kind of push something out there and see how the fans react, how the city reacts, how the papers react, all that stuff. And if it's a good reaction, I mean, you go for it. Because it's happened before where we've seen, even with Ray Rice, where people have said, hey, there's rumors Ray Rice might come to city, insert your city here, and people freak out. And then when people freak out, you never hear about it again.
Yeah, but we're talking about a league that gave someone who killed someone while driving intoxicated a second chance. So
well, I mean, they're very people are very touchy with the domestic abuse, and I don't blame them. I mean, I completely understand it, and if he never sees an NFL field again, I understand why. And if he plays football again, I also understand why. Like, I understand why he would get a second chance. Whether or not I believe he deserves it is another thing. But like you said, the National Football League gives people second chances. That's what they do. I don't necessarily think he'll ever play again, but the door is always open. I mean, there may be a shot of him coming in to try out for a team and just be not good enough because he's reached that point of his career where he's starting to get over the hill, and for a running back at least, and it just may not be worth it.
We'll see. I think someone's going to give him a second chance. He claims he stayed in football shape, so.
Well, yeah, but I mean, age. You can only stay in such good shape for your age, and we all see how running backs age. They don't age very well. But he's been out of the game for long enough where maybe the time off has allowed him to heal up and get better. But I mean, that's the one thing. Like with Adrian Peterson, and this is not in terms of terrible people. This is in terms of just football shape talk right now.
Right.
Peterson's been out of the game for a year, and he still looks as good, if not better, of shape than he was in. So you might see a phenomenal season from Adrian Peterson coming up because he's in just absolutely tip-top shape. But then you see a guy, like I said, you have to dedicate yourself to the game. I feel like that's something, and I know I'm kind of off on a tangent here, but that's something I feel like I understand that running backs they're pigeonholed. Okay, you're good for 6 years, and then we're gonna get a new guy because you're gonna be too old for the position.
Hey Ryan,
what's up?
My wife has called me twice in a row. If she calls me back a third time, I'll have to take it because it's not like her to call me normally like twice in a row if everything's okay.
That's fine. Just let me know.
I will.
If you're good enough and you can stay in good enough shape, like a guy like Fred Jackson, for instance, he's bucking the trend.
Right.
So I mean, you could potentially see Ray Rice buck that trend and come back and say, I can play till I'm 34, 35 because I keep myself in good shape. But then again, I highly doubt it because those guys seem to be 1 in a million.
Right. No, that's true.
Now moving over to this interesting news out of New York, or out of New Jersey, I should say. Geno Smith, quarterback of the New York Jets, out 6 to 10 weeks after getting his jaw broken in the locker room, mind you. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, and I'm gonna butcher this guy's name, so I do apologize. I'm just gonna read this flat out. At the heart of the dispute between former Jets linebacker I.K. Enemkpali and quarterback Geno Smith is $600 that Enemkpali believes Smith owed him, per league sources. I.K. purchased a plane ticket for Smith to attend I.K.'s July 11th football camp at Pflugerville High School in Pflugerville, Texas. However, days before the camp, a person close to Smith was killed in a motorcycle accident in Miami, and Smith did not attend IK's camp, per sources. After Smith did not attend, IK demanded the Jets quarterback refund him the $600. He allegedly used to purchase a plane ticket. Smith told IK he would reimburse him the money, but did not. IK confronted Smith Tuesday about the money, and the confrontation ended in a punch and a broken jaw. Apparently, Geno Smith turned around and said to him, "This is not the time or place," which then, boom, goes the dynamite. Hook to the jaw, broken jaw. Now Ryan Fitzpatrick will be your starting quarterback, New York Jets. Congratulations.
I'll tell you what, man. That either says that IK's got a really good right hook or that Geno Smith has a really glass jaw.
I would think it's probably a little bit of both.
It's possible.
I mean, you could hit a guy with a punch, and that could be that.
Right. I'm just going to throw this out here.
Okay.
I think Geno Smith could afford the $600.
Yeah, I don't know what's it feels like there's a lot more to this story than just that. Like, yeah, I understand that that you owed him money, you no-showed a camp, which he probably used you to pump up,
right.
And I'm sure it looked bad. It made him look terrible when you didn't show up, and there was no reason why you just no-showed. So I'm sure it had much to do with the money as it did the fact that he probably embarrassed him and made him look terrible. But, I'm not sure if this shows a lack of leadership in the locker room. I don't know. Like, I know it's tough because, like, someone said ESPN and Chris Carter came out with some crap that was like, Geno Smith is not a leader because he got punched in the face. That's crap. But if there's just no, it seems like with this that where's the line of communication?
Right.
Like, why did this escalate to a fight and to your quarterback getting his jaw broken when, let's be honest, this could have probably been solved easily?
No. Give me a second, bro. I'll be right back.
You're fine.
All right, bye. Hold on.
That's the thing I don't understand about this whole scenario is that it's just weird to me personally, and I know Lewis has me on hold right now, but it's weird to me personally that in a day and age where things can seem to be able to get figured out pretty simply, you've got two grown men, well, one grown man at least, throwing punches in a locker room. Like, what the hell's going on, But I guess for the Jets, they have really no choice at this point but to figure out where to pick up the pieces and go from here. And as mentioned, Ryan Fitzpatrick will likely be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets, which I guess may not be a bad thing for the Jets, because at this point, it's almost like the Buffalo Bills of old with Ryan Fitzpatrick, with Chan Gailey. They might be able to make a few things happen, have a little fun with that. But I mean, even now, personally, I mean, I know I'm a Bills fan, so hold it against me if you want to. But I certainly think that I don't think that the Jets are a playoff team with or without Geno Smith. I don't think they're a playoff team. I know a lot of Jets fans, so I see a lot of the hype, and I don't believe most of it because I understand how this stuff works out. But excuse me. I guess with my rambling there done, I'll move over to the National Hockey League now, while Lewis speaks with his wife. Chicago Blackhawks forward Patrick Kane currently being involved in a rape investigation. The news does not sound good out of that. There aren't many details aside from the fact that he was spotted around Buffalo, apparently left and ended up going home with 2 girls, and immediately after, apparently the woman arrived at the home. Her and her friend left, and she went to the hospital and had a rape kit performed. I'm not sure if that's the proper terminology. But either way, okay. I got lost there for a second, but I'm back now. Lewis is back now. Just wrapping up the little bit of a discussion, a quick mention of the Patrick Kane rape investigation. Let me make sure the microphones are on here. Yeah, we're good. We're both good. Okay. Yeah, I don't. There's not really much to comment on the investigation. What's currently happening. I have to say I'm getting kind of sick of people blaming the victim in this scenario, because let's be honest. Usually, if you go back to if you leave a bar with someone, that does not automatically mean that you're going to sleep with them. And a lot of people on Twitter are saying that that's how things work, and that's not the case. The victim blaming, slut shaming is not acceptable in this scenario, and it really needs to stop. Unfortunately, because Patrick Kane is a big superstar in the Buffalo area and throughout the entire country, entire world, I should say, people are obviously tending to side with him and saying, oh, I hope everything is not true. And I know, people are saying on Twitter that Patrick Kane does need to rape somebody. But last thing before we move on here, rape is not about sex. Rape is about power over somebody, and people don't understand that. And as it comes to the mentioning of just stupid stuff, just cut it out. Just seriously, just stop it.
All right, wait. I'm kind of. Obviously, you were.
Yeah, I was talking. I was talking while your wife was on the phone with you. But last week, Patrick Kane was accused of raping a woman at his home in Hamburg, and Twitter has been a tire fire ever since.
Okay, but I mean, obviously, I don't really know what Twitter's saying. I don't pay attention that much to a lot of that.
Oh, just crappy, just terrible stuff. Just absolutely terrible stuff about how Patrick Kane is. Like I said, Patrick Kane is not at fault, and the girl is the one who asked for it, and just the usual stuff you see whenever there's a rape accusation.
Okay.
So it's like I said, it's probably better off that you stay off Twitter and just never go on Twitter ever again.
Well, you mentioned like the whole slut shaming thing, and that.
Oh, that was actually directly through the Buffalo News. They went and they spoke to the owner of Sky Bar, which is where Patrick Kane was last seen in Buffalo last weekend, and the owner of Sky Bar essentially just slut shamed the girl and to protect his business, and they actually published that and were openly promoting that article and that interview.
What did he say about her?
He said that, I believe, if I remember correctly, something like there were girls hanging all over him and acting like that they wanted it, and like, really.
Okay, but that's not. I mean, that's not really slut shaming.
You have to read the article. I'll send you the link because I can't remember the article, and I don't think I have time to get it popped up right now on my computer. But give me a second, actually.
Because we've had a couple of we've had a couple of slut shame marches on East Avenue with people walking around with signs saying just because I wear a short skirt doesn't mean I want you to look at me. You know, or the last slut walk, as they called it, that went by our shop, there was a lady walking topless who literally had a sign that said, just because my breast's out doesn't mean you should look at them. But that's a discussion for another time because I have very strong opinions about that.
Yeah, this guy said the owner of Sky Bar says he has no way of knowing what happened, but he noticed a young woman hanging all over Kane, putting her hands on his arms, being very forward and flirtatious. It was almost like she stationed herself near him and was keeping him away from other women. I noticed it and kind of laughed about it.
Yeah, that's not slut shaming at all.
I disagree, Lewis.
That's not. How is that slut shaming? That's not slut shaming at all.
They're sitting here trying to paint a picture and make Patrick Kane look like he's the victim in this situation.
All he said,
not the victim.
All he said was that there was a lady who was hanging on him and seemed to be making it to where she was trying to block other women from getting to her. That's not slut shaming at all. Look up the definition of slut shaming because that's not it.
I think I'll have to. I think I'll have to pass you along to my group of Twitter friends and you can speak with them about that because it's. This whole scenario is a microcosm of the larger problem throughout the entire world, where usually the person who does the causes the problem is made to be the victim, which is
but all he said
wrong.
Was that
yeah, and that's not correct. This guy is speaking. Because he doesn't know if that was the victim. He was looking at her and just saying, I just saw a couple girls around him and they were being flirtatious and putting their hands on his arm. So apparently if a woman puts her hand on my arm, then she's asking for it.
That's not what he said. You are taking out of context what he said completely. That is not slut shaming at all. Slut shaming is when someone violates accepted dress codes by dressing in perceived provocative ways, having promiscuous sex, when you're sexually assaulted, right? You could be slut shamed. But what he said, this lady allegedly was sexually assaulted, but what this dude said was not slut shaming at all. All he said was she had her hand on his arm and seemed to be trying to block other women from getting to him. That's it. Slut shaming is when you go out with your friends and girls get mad at you because they're wearing short skirts and you're staring at them. That's slut shaming. Girls don't want you to stare at them when they're wearing short skirts, but you are. That's slut shaming. I've been involved in many a slut shame conversation with a bunch of feminists. So they've defined slut shaming to me very clearly. And what that dude did was not slut shaming at all. He was just stating facts, according to him. And who knows, that girl might have been hanging off of him. Maybe she was blocking other chicks from trying to get to him. That's not slut shaming. That's just stating what you saw.
Hold on 1 second here. I just came across something. Apparently, today is Tom Brady's hearing.
Yes.
In New York.
Yeah.
But
they arrived in Manhattan a couple hours.
Sorry to cut you off there, but a local New York City newspaper has a guy in the courtroom tweeting out information about what's going on. So
He's live tweeting the court date?
He's live tweeting the court date.
That's awesome. I bet that's...
I'm sorry, that's why I didn't mean to change the subject there, because I know it's a very important subject to speak of, but I just saw this and clicked over on it. Let me pop this guy's Twitter account up really quick. Excuse me, because I'm trying to read it as it's going, like as he's tweeting. So I'm like reading a tweet and then it shoots up the screen. Then I'm reading a tweet and it shoots up the screen.
Okay.
So I'll get back to that in just a second. But I also want to point out too that
I'm about to start my car. If I lose you, call me right back.
I will. I did want to mention too that. It's a music break. I got you back.
All right.
Dude, we were rocking out there for a second, man.
Yeah, my satellite radio popped up and cut you off. Unfortunately, it didn't hang up on you, which it's done before.
It's all good. Austin Matthews, expected top prospect in the next year's draft, is also going to Canada. He's going overseas to play hockey. $400,000 to play hockey next year. Not bad at all. I like this thing on Twitter too. Is that the more that something is retweeted, the bigger it is apparently.
Right. Well, what was retweeted a ton now?
Apparently, who's Berman? Let's see here. Judge Berman says that Brady and Goodell will participate in another settlement talk overseen by Berman after the hearing. Let's see here. Yeah, so apparently the Wells report is a bunch of garbage, which we knew that.
Okay.
Judge Berman asks if there's any direct evidence linking Brady to tampering. It says, turns out Mr. Brady did better with higher inflated balls and underinflated balls. You may say he's got no competitive advantage. I'm trying to figure out what the direct evidence that implicates Brady in that deflation in that bathroom on January 18th. It would be hard to imagine a quarterback not knowing a ball is deflated. He's the one who throws the ball. They continue to press for direct evidence, but there is no direct evidence. So they're still going off of the fact that he destroyed his cell phone, but there is no actual evidence to suspend him.
Right.
There's no smoking gun. There's no video. There's no whatever. Somebody deflated the balls, but it didn't help Mr. Brady. Does that matter? What matters is the commissioner's thought on that, his judgment. From a legal perspective, you have to show that conspirators intended to be in the conspiracy as they were meeting, blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure where the gate in Deflategate comes from. The Wells report and the award relates only to one game. I'm sorry. I apologize over in the podcast world. I'm actually legitimately scrolling up through a Twitter account as I'm looking here.
Right, that's the thing. Like, he was busted for one game, and they can't even.
And the best part is that when they busted him, he actually played better after they put the reinflated balls back in the game.
Right.
Like, hilarious. I don't know. I don't think that. I mean, the more and more we go through that, it looks more and more like the National Football League is taking a shot in the dark, trying to set a precedent, and they can't.
Right. Right.
I mean,
yeah, we've discussed this many times.
Yeah.
Well,
we discuss it. We discuss it every time they have another federal court hearing.
You got blanked in the second half of that game when they fixed the balls. Like, if the score had been 31-27, we could have a discussion. But you scored 7 points in that game, and the Patriots scored, 38?
Yeah, something like that.
So,
They scored. They outscored. They shut out the Colts in the second half of that game.
right, like you lost by 30 points. Why are we having this discussion?
Apparently, Tom Brady's lawyer is fired up, cracking the courtroom up.
I believe it because I mean, at this point, it's gotten to the point of ridiculousness where you're like, listen, there's no direct evidence.
They can point the deflation to the equipment managers, but they cannot point the deflation to Tom Brady. So essentially, they're trying to suspend Tom Brady for someone else's actions that he wasn't even aware of.
Right. So the whole thing is just, why would you go after someone who's been consistently one of your best players?
Now we're getting, sorry to cut you off, but now we're getting to some interesting information here. The judge asks, why did Mr. Brady not cooperate with the Wells investigation with respect to providing text? So we shall see here in a moment. It's about to go down. The long and the short of it, it's about to go down. I want to jump over to baseball real quick. Got a couple funny things to talk about here. Well, not really funny, but New York Mets pitcher Jerry Blevins broke his arm back in April. He fractured his arm. He took a line drive off the arm. He tripped and fell and re-broke his arm. He'll be out for the rest of the season. Texas acquires Mike Napoli, which was I want to mention because I was very sad when it happened. But Napoli has not been very good for the Red Sox this year. But like Shane Victorino in 2013, the Red Sox would not have won the World Series that year without Mike Napoli. So a debt of gratitude is owed to him for a very, very long time. And I'm not sure if you ever saw the photos, Perez, but Mike Napoli will never have to buy a shot of Fireball in the city of Boston ever again.
Right.
After they won the World Series, he was photographed walking around Boston after midnight with no shirt on, like looking like Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot or whatever.
Nice.
Baseball continues to not be fair. Miami Marlins pitcher Jose Fernandez is out with the right bicep strain after coming back from Tommy John surgery. So hopefully that's something that doesn't continue to hinder him. And something really interesting, Perez. For the first time ever in the history of baseball, ever, on Tuesday night, all 15 home teams won their game.
Really?
That's never happened before in baseball. Absolutely fascinating. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Then I looked into it, and it was like, oh, wait, this is actually a really big deal.
Really? That's a pretty big deal. Especially if it's never happened before.
Okay, here's something. Okay.
Good.
Jeffrey Kessler, Brady's lawyer, says Ted Wells did not communicate directly with Brady. He did not establish an expectation of a punishment if he didn't cooperate. So essentially, he didn't say, look at Brady, if you don't tell us what you know, we're going to suspend you. They didn't tell him that. Kessler also says Brady didn't communicate with Wells on advice from his agent, Don Yee, who was also a lawyer. So apparently there's just a whole lot of no one really knows what the hell's going on. But we'll know more. We'll talk more about it next week because that's what we like to talk about on the podcast is crap stuff. Anyways, I want to ask you something. Are you buying Toronto right now? Are you buying if this was a stock market, would you be buying all the stock you can on the Toronto Blue Jays? Even being a Yankee fan.
I don't know if I'll be buying all the stock I can, but I would definitely be dabbling in the market.
Now, for those who don't know, in the last 10 games, Toronto 9-1. They're on a 9-game winning streak. At the deadline, they were 6.5 back. That was July 31st. It's August 12th. They're a half game back of the Yankees in the East. The hottest team in baseball, hands down. And
absolutely,
it's funny because a lot of people are pointing to the Troy Tulowitzki factor. Now, with Tulowitzki in the lineup, Toronto, since acquiring him, is 11-0. Pretty damn good, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's something funny to point out, though. Tulowitzki has not been much of a factor. In August, now this does not include 3 games, which he went, let's see here, 5 for 11, 12, 13, 14. 5 for 14 in 3 games to end July. But in August, all games with Toronto, Tulowitzki is 12 for 35, batting 171. So he hasn't been much of a factor, but then again, you look at a guy like Troy Tulowitzki in that lineup, it bolsters the lineup enough where you can sit there and you can say, hey, just because Tulowitzki's not the guy, he's making the lineup better because he makes the lineup deeper. So at this point, I would almost say, I'm buying the Toronto Blue Jays. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not, the Yankees have been good most of the season. I think the wild card comes down to Toronto or New York in terms of, obviously, one of those teams is going to be in the wild card in the one-game playoff. But, I mean, right now, I would say on August 12th, if the Blue Jays don't win the East, something happened. Something will have to happen drastic because they seem like they're clicking on all cylinders and really hitting their stride. It might be a little early to hit the stride, but they kind of have to if they want to win the East.
Yeah, but I mean, the Yankees are starting to look like the Yankees that I've been foretelling people of. And Toronto, they've been on fire. I see it coming down. I think they're going to win the East.
Oh, absolutely. I think it'll probably be. And then you look at the wild card standings right now. It's right now. It will be the Angels and Toronto, but I mean, Minnesota's hanging on at 500. They're 3 games back in the wild card. Baltimore's at 57-55, 2 games back. Tampa teetering at 2.5 back. Texas at 3.5 back of the wild card, 4.5 back in the West. I'm interested to see what happens with Houston, though, because Houston's kind of come back to earth. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They've lost 4 in a row. And like I told you before earlier in the year with the Yankees, you don't find out how good a team is when they're doing good. You find out how good a team is when they're bad and how they come back from a bad losing streak or a bad stretch of games. If they go 3-7 and 10, and then they switch that up by going 3-7 the next 10, you cool off on them. But if they go 3-7 and then go 7-3 and they kind of even out, you may go, okay, maybe they're just having a bad stretch of games. Which, because it's 162 game season, it's a long year. You're gonna have a bad stretch of baseball here or there. But Kansas City, I mean, as we discussed with them before, it looks like they're gonna win the Central hands down. I mean, they're 12 games up with a month and a half of baseball left to go. I think the most intriguing race to me is not the AL East, but the NL East. With the Mets and the Nationals. The Nationals are struggling. The Mets are on fire. The Mets currently have a 2.5 game lead in the East, which at the start of the season, if you had told me the Mets would be in lead in the East on August 12th, I'd have told you you're crazy.
Right.
St. Louis looks like they're running away with the Central. They're 6 games up on Pittsburgh. The Cubs are currently in the wild card game. It would be Pittsburgh and Chicago in Pittsburgh, but I'll be damned if that's not a turnaround for the first year of Joe Madden in Chicago, that they at least make a playoff game. They might even make the playoffs themselves if they could beat the Pittsburgh Pirates. And in the West, you've got the Dodgers and the Giants separated by 2.5 games. Now, the thing about the Dodgers I'm interested in, Perez, is do they blow it up after this year if they don't win or even make it far in the playoffs? Because you have to understand, too, they have $300 million in that payroll.
Yes, they do.
And they are struggling.
Yes, they are.
So what?
I would.
If you're the guy, if you're the GM or the owner of the Dodgers, what do you do if they don't win the World Series? I mean, because with $300 million, you figure that the World Series is what they're going for.
I get myself a new manager. I keep Yasiel Puig, and everyone else is on the block.
See, I think the offense is okay. The offense is okay. They've got a good mixture of young and old. But I feel like they have avoided their pitching problem. I mean, they've got Kershaw, they've got Greinke, but you look at that bullpen, and we've seen the past couple of weeks, it's ugly. It's gotten ugly, and it's not. It's just gotten uglier. You probably want to rebuild that bullpen, maybe tighten up that rotation just a little, but they should be crushing it in the West, and they're not.
Nope, they're not.
And that's surprising. But as we've learned throughout all the years, money can't buy you a championship.
Nope.
All right. We're looking back to Tom Brady. Brady's lawyer said he probably should have conducted himself differently with Ted Wells. This is pretty funny. Yeah, apparently this guy's going off. One last thing before we move on to whatever's next. I'm not sure what's next, but that's the fun part about this. Nick Swisher. You remember him from New York, Lewis.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's the biggest cheerleader on a team. Correct? You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was just cut.
Well, yeah, when he was traded to Atlanta. Now, apparently, when the Indians were good and actually contending, they loved the rah-rahness that he was bringing to the table. Well, apparently now, when Cleveland was bad and is bad now, he was still very rah-rah about the whole thing. Like, yeah, we're great, we're gonna be great, we're gonna do great things, guys. And they're like, yo, dude, cut the shit. Like, just cut it out. Just stop it. Just stop it now, because we're sick of it. And apparently that's what the thought was after he was dealt away, is that they were not very, very pleased with his rah-rah attitude. Now, I understand that, but I mean, I don't know. I think it's funny. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny to point out, but then I actually read it and I was like, "Damn it, that was not pretty funny."
You would think that in times where your team is struggling, you'd want someone like that on your team to help.
If that same
posting.
But if that same guy is doing it all the time and it's not working, it gets annoying. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know. I would prefer that than having a bunch of naysayers on my team, even when we're bad.
Well, not to mention too, Nick Swisher was batting around 200 at the time, so he's sitting there trying to hype everyone up as he's part of the problem.
Yeah, but I mean, that might be his way of trying to help hype himself up also. So, I don't know. It is what it is. I feel bad for the guy.
That's okay. Well, he's in Atlanta now, and that's that. I also want to point out, too, real quick, December 12th, we're going to get the super fight that we've all been waiting for. Conor McGregor, Jose Aldo, Las Vegas. It was rumored to be in Dallas Cowboy Stadium, but that's not happening this year, so we'll see how that one turns out, but I certainly think that's going to be one hell of a fight. May end up being the fight of the year. I'm certainly going to tune in, as long as it happens, because, I mean, last time Jose Aldo did not want to fight Conor McGregor, and we all saw how that worked out, but hard to avoid him now. So we'll see what happens from here on out. I just went completely blank in my brain cells. I want to point out too something funny. I was just thinking, this is what happens when we just do a podcast. We just talk, just have a conversation. Koji Uehara hitting the arm with a line drive. After the game, the Red Sox said he was fine. Said it'll be okay. Just a little swelling. He'll be down for a couple of days. Then a couple of days come by, the Red Sox say, okay, we're going to place him on the DL. We don't think that he's going to be back in a couple of days, maybe a couple weeks. And then they do a CT scan, and they find out that he has a broken wrist. After professing that he was totally fine, he's going to be okay, he's got a broken wrist. That, to me, sounds like the Boston Red Sox season in a nutshell. Everything's going to be okay as you're sitting in the house that's burning down around you.
Yeah, they're not good.
No, not at all. They're terrible.
So, yeah,
that's all I've got. They're really bad.
That's really all you got to say. I mean, they're just horrible.
It's been a long season. It's August already. Last night was the first time in probably a month that I've watched a full Red Sox game and they lost. They blew a lead, and that's when that's why I was like, okay, maybe that's why I only watch a couple innings a night, because I just can't handle it anymore. Like, watching how bad they are, it's tough to watch.
Yeah, I don't get that mentality though. Like, if it's your team, you should watch it no matter what.
It's very difficult because it's very easy to get frustrated by what the team hasn't done and what they continue to do, like trotting out Alexia Gondo all the time, and that guy is garbage. Or Craig Breslow, which he has so nicely gained the nickname the human white flag. Whenever the Red Sox put him out on the mound, they just say screw it, because he'll likely give up runs and blow the game, which surprisingly last night that's exactly what he did. Came out on the mound and I said, oh, this game's over, and then 2 batters later the game was over. So when you watch how bad of a football team, sorry, I was reading Twitter as I'm talking. As you see how bad of a baseball team this is, and you can almost predict the crappiness that is going to ensue. And like I said, I've gotten to the point where I can almost predict it, and it's very hard to watch because you expect the Boston Red Sox to be good every year. I mean, even you as a Yankee fan, Perez, you should know that it's baseball is better when the Yankees and Red Sox are good. And that's the old saying. But it's hard to watch bad baseball.
I don't know. Baseball is baseball. I watch a full game no matter what's going on.
I find myself watching a lot more of other teams. Like watching the Royals play, or the Pirates play, or the Cubs play. Like that's exciting to me. Watching the Red Sox play is like watching someone step on their nuts for 2 hours a night. And you just sit there and continue to wonder what is actually happening, what is going on, why do this, why do that? I don't know. I throw my hands up in the air and I just walk away. I guess to continue on with what we're going through here with the Tom Brady saga, it appears that the proceedings are over. Let's see here. After filing all that, Kessler certainly left the settlement of Brady accepting a penalty for failing to cooperate. Okay. So, I think the tables have been set up for Tom Brady to play football next year. From how it sounds right now, and again, we'll talk about it more next week as we get closer, as we get more information, I should say, closer to the football season. It sounds like Jeffrey Kessler, Tom Brady's lawyer, kind of subtly set up an opportunity for a settlement between Brady and the NFL, where Brady would accept a penalty for failing to cooperate with Ted Wells. I mean, granted, Brady didn't know that he would be suspended if he did not cooperate, but they may say, okay, we'll do something better for you because you realize you should have cooperated. Although the Wells report's a sham, we all know that. The NFL essentially conducted a witch hunt. I mean, I'm a Bills fan, you're a Cowboys fan, Perez. We both agree on this. The way they handled Deflategate, horrible. The way Roger Goodell handled it, horrible.
Yes.
But if Brady if they can at least get closer to something and figure something out and get this in the past, I mean, I still think pay a big fine. You can't suspend the guy because you just can't. There's no way you can suspend him. That's just my opinion, but like I always say, Lewis, what do I know? I'm just a stupid blogger. I don't know anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't suspend a dude on, possibilities and what ifs.
Absolutely, and that's what the NFL does. That's the National Football League.
Oh, well.
I guess, with that being said, that's the news. That's the podcast. It's been 55 minutes almost, and we've just talked about random things. But someone will enjoy this, I think.
I did.
I did too. It helps my brain. I mean, like I said, my head's been plugged up for the past couple of days, so being able to talk sports and get some of that sport-related inflation, got to get out of my head. And it's always nice talking sports with you.
And you.
I'm sure. I think not. I think next Saturday, obviously not this one, but the one after, we can. Let me see what the date is on. Excuse me, the 22nd. I think we can get back together and reconvene. Excuse me, for a podcast in the new Wolf Den Studios at the M&N Family Estate. If you're okay to do that, we can do that.
I got to see what I got going on next Saturday, but it should be fine.
Wait, I was going to say I understand if you can't do it, but at least the door's open.
Right. I got to bring your brother his money anyway.
I'm sure he would be very happy to see you with that.
Well, I didn't make the show on Saturday.
I did hear about that.
I had to work.
Unfortunately, things happen, right?
Right. Well, it was kind of a last-minute thing. Like, I got a call, like, we forgot that you needed to do some type of, like, training in Watertown, blah, blah, blah. Can you go out there? And, it can't really be changed. It's our fault. We forgot to tell you. So I was like, all right, yeah, cool. I'll swing out there. And, Watertown's 2.5 hours away from Rochester.
And it's your job.
And it's my job. And to drive back to Buffalo would be 3.5 hours. But here's the thing. Like, I could see if they could change the date and go to the wrestling show and do my manager bit and make $0, or I could work that day, make money, and in mileage make an extra $175.
Yeah, I think you made the right choice.
So $175 versus $0.
I think you made the right call.
Really not a difficult decision.
No, I think you did well. You did very well. Now, I am myself. Me is Ryan Wolf.
Yes, you are. Last time I checked.
At Wolf, smack me in the face. I'm gonna edit that out. Editing it out. F me. I'm editing that out. I'm mad about that. I am Wolf BLTD on Twitter.
Yes, you are.
You are. He is
MR.
Mr. Perez at MRLG Perez. Excuse me.
On Twitter, on Instagram, on everything. Give me a follow.
Absolutely. It's worth it. It's worth it. I promise.
Okay.
We are BLTD. Check us out, BLTDsports.com. A lot of good stuff going up. I know Brayton just posted an article today about expectations for Jack Eichel, Buffalo Sabres rookie forward. A very good, extensive piece on that. We've got some other things going up as well soon. We've gained a few more writers in the past couple weeks. So, quality stuff over at BLTDsports.com. Check us out, Facebook.com/BLTD Podcast and at BLTD Sports on Twitter.
Yes.
Thank you to everyone out there for tuning in. Thanks to John and Dawn for executively producing the podcast, and Gear Network thank you to Gear Network for letting things happen as per usual. Sorry about the lack of production this week, and the lack of really content. We just kind of wanted to get something out there, but I don't know. We'll see you in a week and a half. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will talk to you sometime soon.
Adios.